It's Foldy Bay season, and Samsung just unveiled the Galaxy Z Fold 5 and Z Flip 5. If you're a mainstream user and not really a power user that's looking to get a phone and a tablet in one folding device, then you're more likely curious about the Flip. This is a candy bar style smartphone that folds down into half the size of a regular device and can fit in your pocket very comfortably. The Galaxy Z Flip 5 is the 5th generation in Samsung's family, and it comes with a significant upgrade. That cover display that used to be just 1.9 inches wide or big now sits at a generous 3.4 inches, and it basically covers almost the entire back half of the phone when closed. Samsung also redesigned the hinge here, so when the device is closed, there is no longer a gap between the two halves of the internal screen. All of that comes at the same $999 starting price as last year's model too. Based on the rumors we had seen leading up to the event, I was already very stoked at the prospect of a larger external display, so I wasn't disappointed when I did arrive at the hands-on and see that these devices certainly had that external display like we heard about. Now, to be clear, I had just come off of reviewing the Moto Razr Plus, which also has a similarly large external window. It is a little bit bigger in size, it's 3.6 inches instead of 3.4 here, and it can do a lot more, but that's not to say that the Samsung version is worse. It is a little more limited in what it can do because Samsung doesn't offer you the chance to run full Android on what it's calling the flex window out here, which, by the way, it's a really silly name, Samsung. This outside window does not flex, so why call it the flex window? But okay, sure. The Z Flip 5 runs basically One UI 5.0 on the external screen. This allows you to swipe sideways through widgets, and Samsung's increased the number of widgets you can run out here. And also, it's added some navigation tweaks so that you can actually jump to some that might be further along the carousel more quickly. With a pinch out or a zoom out sort of gesture, you can actually see all the widgets you have allowed to show up on the outside screen. Swiping down from top of the home screen, like before, will bring down the quick settings drawer, but now because there's so much more space, you'll see 2 additional icons. Swiping over to the left, which means you swipe right, brings up your notifications as well. Now from here, you can actually reply to messages or notifications with a full QWERTY keyboard to basically, alerts that coming from any app that's running on your phone. But not every app that you've installed will be able to run on the external display, and this is where the key difference between the Moto Razr Plus and the Galaxy Z Flip 5 is. I also don't know that Samsung allows enough space for the QWERTY keyboard on its outside screen, compared to Moto at least. Of course, I understand there's a lot of challenges in squeezing any sort of feasible layout on such a small space, so I think what Samsung was trying to do is offer a decent balance between content you're seeing and, button size. On the Moto Razr Plus, for example, when I'm typing in Telegram, the keyboard takes up the full screen and I can see my message, but I still have to get out of the keyboard and go back into the Telegram app before I can hit send to pass the message through. Meanwhile, on the Samsung version, you can see both the messaging input field as well as the keyboard, which is slightly smaller than on Moto's. Either way, it doesn't take away from the fact that this is just delightful. I mean, having a full QWERTY keyboard on the device that small that you can actually type on and reply to messages with, delightful. Now, I've talked a lot about the external display, and I also watched some YouTube videos on it. It's pretty wild. I mean, it was serviceable. I'm not gonna be blown away by the quality of images on this screen. It's a 760 by 748 screen that runs at 60 Hz. So it's not going to be the most crisp detail, although the pixel density at 304 ppi is solid. Now, the one big thing I'm most stoked about having a big exterior display for is using it as a viewfinder. If you'll recall, using the cover display, that tiny sliver 1.9-inch cover display on the Galaxy Z Flip 4 as sort of a way to preview what you're seeing with the cameras on the lid was basically a painful experiment because you can kind of see it, but you don't really know what's gonna all fit in the frame. With this 3.4-inch flex window, you can see the entire scene. You can also swipe sideways to switch modes or zoom in to change the lens or, zoom into your subject. Now, to be clear, the cameras themselves haven't actually changed. Samsung did add a little different coating on the main lens on the outside as well as the main sensor on the inside, but that's really it. It tweaked its algorithm to allow for some more digital zoom, and a rep at the event told me that this would equate to about 3 times optical zoom, and the pictures that I did take that were zoomed in did look pretty clear. Obviously, this is something that we're going to have to take out into the real world and test against other cameras to see how well it behaves or performs. The internal camera did get a slight upgrade. The aperture size of the lens has grown slightly bigger from f2.4 to f2.2. Again, this isn't something that I can tell you right now if it's significantly better based on our hands-on, but I will definitely be taking a lot of selfies in our review to see if it's better than the predecessor. What I was able to check out is the feature called flex mode, so that when the screen is sort of sitting perpendicular to itself, the apps actually make better use of the layout by snapping into half and are slightly easier to use with one hand. For an app like the camera, for example, this means you'll see the viewfinder at the top half, and then the bottom is controls for triggering the photo, seeing a preview, or switching different modes. We also checked it out on YouTube, where the app will understand that you folded the phone in half and show you the video up top and comments or description on the bottom. But Samsung did something different this year. At the bottom left of the screen, you can press a button to trigger the flex panel. This is what allows you to have a touchpad sort of taking up the bottom half of the screen when flex mode is activated. Here's the problem though. In an app like YouTube that already has native flex mode awareness built in, this does cover some of the elements that it's not meant to. Of course, all of this is still pre-launch software, so Samsung might tweak it, or there may be different workarounds. You can always turn off this flex panel in an app that you don't think you'll need it in, for example. In my review of the Z Flip 4 last year, I ended up realizing that the flex mode and the flex panel weren't as useful as I thought they might be. So this is possibly a feature that I'm gonna need to spend more time sitting back on my couch testing before I can tell you if the changes that Samsung made really translate to improvements in the real world. For now though, I can tell you, the new Hinge, it works. This thing, it closes flat. There's no gap, which means if that bothered you before, it won't bother you anymore. I even compared the new Z Flip 5 with a Z Flip 4 that I brought to the event, and it's clear the purple Flip 4 has a noticeable gap and the Z Flip 5 doesn't. I also opened up both their screens to compare the creases, and I'll be honest, I don't think it makes a difference. Neither of them are more subtle than the other, and they're both noticeable. But I do want to say, I don't care if the crease is there. I've come to accept it as part of, what having a flexible screen means. Everything else about the Z Flip 5 is very similar to its predecessor. You'll have similar water and dust resistance rating of IPX8. This year, however, there are some different color options, and I'm really taken with the mint color. There's also pink, wherein last year we had Bora purple, which really, if you know Korean, just means purple. There's also the more standard looking cream and black versions if, you're classy like that. There's also other internal upgrades like a new processor and double the amount of base storage, starting at 256 gigs with 8 gigs of RAM as opposed to last year's 128. So that's nice, and you're still getting all of that for the same starting price of $999. Now, if you're already excited, you're like ready to go, you don't want a PS5 situation on your hands, you can pre-order them today through the Galaxy Reserve program, and the devices will actually be on sale come August 11th. But I am almost 100% sure that we will have a review up before then. So give us some time to test out performance, battery life, real world camera tests, all of that fun stuff before you actually spend any money. I mean, again, it's your money, do whatever you want with it, but maybe let us do some research for you. So for the full review, make sure you come back to Engadget.com, and for more coverage of Samsung, Apple, Google, Microsoft, and more, make sure you subscribe to Engadget. Until next time, I fold and I flip.